Today, I'm going to be demonstrating purled lifted increases, and these increases are nearly invisible when worked in reverse stockinette fabric like I have here. So here I have lifted increases along the neckline edge as well as the armhole edge to shape this top. Here I have a little swatch started to emulate the same construction that I have here at the strap, and I will be demonstrating both a left-leaning and a right-leaning lifted increase. So left-leaning increases will lean towards the left, and right-leaning increases will lean towards the right. And I'm going to start with a right-leaning lifted increase in Purl here. So what we're going to do on a lifted increase is lift the stitch below the stitch that's currently on the needles to bring it up onto the needles to work as a new stitch. So for this right-leaning increase, I'm going to take my needle and place it through that purl bump below the stitch on the needle, place it up onto the needle, and then I'm just going to purl that stitch just like you would a regular stitch. So that action in itself is the increase, and any further action on this stitch here should be followed as instructed in the pattern. In my pattern, it is telling me to purl that stitch, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. So next we are going to be working a left-leaning lifted increase in Purl, and that increase is going to lean towards the left in that direction. So this increase is a little bit different, and you're not going to be lifting the stitch directly below the needle. You're going to do 2 stitches below the needle. So I'm going to take my left-hand needle and place it through that purl bump to lift it up onto my left-hand needle, and then I'm going to purl that stitch. And that is my lifted increase. I'll demonstrate each of those increases one more time. So again, starting with the right-leaning lifted increase in Purl, we will take that right-hand needle, place it through the purl bump below the stitch on the needles, place that stitch up onto the needles, and then purl it just like you would a regular stitch. And that is the increased stitch in itself. And as a reminder, just follow the instructions for the following stitch as per your pattern. My pattern tells me to purl, so that's what I'm going to do here. And here I am ready for my left-leaning lifted increase. That's going to lean towards the left over that way. And because I just worked this stitch here on the needle, I need to lift the stitch below that one to work my left-leaning lifted increase. So I'm going to take my left-hand needle and place that from front to back through that purl stitch, and then just purl that increase. And we have the lovely lifted increase there. Here is the finished look. Overall, these increases are fairly invisible and become even more invisible after blocking. There definitely is a little bit of tension differences because you are lifting that stitch from one row below to the working row. So there are a little bit of tension differences there, but overall looks very integrated, very seamless, and a great way to increase in a reverse stockinette fabric.